Hello to you. Baseball season is here, and our first edition of Around the Bases is as well. I'm Tony Haynes, along with NC State baseball coach Elliot Avent. Thank you so much for watching. We're taping from the Backyard Bistro across the street from Carter Finley Stadium. This is the first of 4 Around the Bases. Next one coming up on March 20th. We'll have another on April 3rd, and then the last show on April 24th. NC State has played 2 series, won both of those series. Comes in 4-2, and a busy week is ahead. We'll touch on that with the head coach of the Wolfpack, who is now in his 21st year at NC State. And when Coach Avent pops out of the dugout, you see him wearing number 9. Now, I know there's a story behind that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before we get to that, there's always a story behind the number you wear. I think I know why you wear number 9, but how significant is the number 9 in baseball? Ted Williams wore number 9, greatest hitter of all time. You also had Reggie Jackson wore number 9 when he was with the Oakland A's. People forget because he's more famous for 44, right?
That's right.
Roger Maris wore number 9 when he had 61 home runs in 1961. And the natural, Roy Hobbs, also wore number 9. So can we refer to you as the natural?
No, you can't. But all those guys, except maybe Reggie Jackson, are part of the reason I wear number 9. But the reason I wear number 9 is actually, Greg Nettles.
That's right.
He was my favorite player. Tremendous third baseman for the Yankees, and great in the locker room, great clubhouse guy, and also a pretty good hitter at Yankee Stadium. But actually, I wore 6 when I got here, and we're signing Colt Morton about 1 o'clock in the morning in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I looked at my watch. I said, oh, my God, I got to talk, and I apologize. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. The family said, that's okay. This is a big deal to us. And the dad said, Colt, isn't this something you want to ask, Coach? And he said, no, Dad, no. And he said, go ahead, ask him. I'm sure. He said, does anybody wear number 6? And I said, absolutely not. And my assistant kicked me under the table thinking, I just forgot. And so when I got in the car, he said, Coach, you wear number 6. I said, not anymore. And Cole Morton was a great player here. So I changed to number 5, and Chad Orvella from the state of Washington wanted number 5, so I gave it to him. So I went to my old standby, Greg Nettles, which is what I wore when I played. And so I went to that, and I've stuck with it ever since.
So if we ever retire your number, which number are we going to retire?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Okay.
But Mickey Mantle wore 2 numbers, too, now.
He wore number 6.
He wore number 6. Only you would know that. He wore number 6 when he first came up with the Yankees.
That's right. And Bruce, a Yankee hater, back in the back of the room, he said, all right, get on with the show. Stop talking about the Yankees. It's funny. Baseball is different than a lot of sports. Like 6 games into the season in football, you kind of know by then what you got. You have a feel for just how good you're going to be. But there's a long season ahead. It's too early to draw conclusions. But for you, based on what you've seen through 6 games, early season practice, what is your assessment to this point, both good and bad?
Yeah, we have – speaking of Bruce Winkworth, he's been my general manager, bench coach, whatever you want to call him, since we've had a great friendship our whole life. I was here as an assistant. And Bruce and I both share a great love of NC State and baseball, 2 things in common. And when I came back here, he just became everything to me, my confidant, my GM, my bench coach, and he still remains such. And he sends me a long email after every game and every practice usually that he gets to watch. And he's so spot on in everything he comments on. But we're going to have a long staff meeting this afternoon. I told him when I headed over here, hey, don't plan anything for like 3 or 4 hours this afternoon. It's different now. Like, I pride myself, right or wrong, I pride myself in making good decisions in games that not help us win. I don't want to hurt us from winning. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be the players win and lose game. All good coaches, Coach Esposito taught me, they don't get in the way of the players winning. You know what I'm saying? Let the players decide the games. You stay out of the way. And some people overmanage, and I never want to be guilty of that. But I don't like to make decisions that, like yesterday's game, I thought we could have won if I'd have done what I wanted to, but I'm still trying to learn this team. So I'm trying to figure out what the freshmen can do and who can do what in a certain situation, because we're going to need these guys down the road. But I'm so disappointed that we lost yesterday's game because, I did some things to see what guys would do in certain situations. But part of that also, it's a young season. Austin Staley and Zach Usman have been our best pitchers by far. and then Adler has thrown very well. But they've been our three guys that have been very, very good. And Staley and Oosterman have been outstanding, but you can't pitch them to death. Mm-hmm. So, you can't early on just ride those two guys' backs, almost like Will Gilbert, what we did last year, Will Gilbert. But we're still looking for Will Gilbert. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of freshmen that are good players. We're just trying to see what they can do in certain situations. And unfortunately, we lost yesterday's game. But we won't have any idea about this team probably for 3 or 4, sometimes 5 weeks. It takes a while in baseball, takes a while in basketball to figure out your rotation. Like you say in football, you probably know early on. There's only 11, 12 games, and you have to know early on. But this is a growing thing in baseball, and just really disappointed with last night's outcome.
Yeah, they scored 4 in the 8th inning, did Austin Peay to win the game 7-3, and that's what people will remember. But your guys struggled swinging the bats yesterday. They started a crafty lefty, Caleb Powell, who was throwing a lot of off-speed stuff. Was he that good?
Everybody that throws a lot of off-speed stuff, we struggled. In Hawaii, they had a guy that his best bolt was like 85 miles an hour, and we struggled all game long. In the first game, I think we won 4-0. But we struggle with that kind of guy, and we got to get better at it. But you talk about hitting. Hitting always comes along, slower than pitching, they say. But, I mean, we've had great weather to practice. We've had enough scrimmages to probably be swinging the bat better than we are. We got 3 guys that are basically doing what they need to do at the plate. Mm-hmm. And that's Will Wilson, a freshman that you don't count on, Brett Kinnaman, and Josh McClain. And other than those 3 guys, and Jack Conley's given us some okay at-bats, and so is Brad. Debo's a freshman. But we got a lot of older guys right now just not swinging the bats the way they're going to swing, need to swing it if we're going to be successful this year.
Austin Peay, you told me, though, yesterday, I came out of the ballpark early, and we were talking, for your pitchers this weekend, that was a pretty good challenge, right? They can swing the bats.
Austin Peay is picked to win their league, and it's a pretty good league, and I knew that. But their coach played for me. As a matter of fact, his dad just sent me an email this morning, and if you read the email, it's why you play them. Mm-hmm. I'm so proud of everybody in my life that I feel like I played a part. And to listen to his dad this morning email, gives me like most of the credit for where this kid is now in his life. And that's why you coach. And there's so many people in my life, from Coach Esposito to Jim Valvano to Ray Tanner to my dad to Russ Frazier, Lewisburg Junior College, Tony Guzzo. There's so many people in my life that allowed me, if I worked hard enough, to have some success in this business. And you want to do the same. So, but Travis Jansen at Austin Peay has a terrific ball club. They're picked to win their league. If they stay healthy, I think they are going to win their league. They're very, very, very good. But I still feel like we should have swept.
Elliott Avent around the bases coming up, 4 o'clock NC State on Tuesday on the road to UNC Greensboro. Then Charlotte here on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Doakfield at Dale Park. Rhode Island will be in for one game on Friday at 3 o'clock. Then the Pack will take on Maryland Saturday at the USA Baseball Complex. That'll start at 4:30. And then next weekend on Sunday, 1 o'clock against UMass Lowell. So it's a very busy week coming up. Have you had to shuffle the deck a little bit with your starting rotation with Brian Brown and Cody Beckman shut down, as they are?
Yeah, it's hard. Brian Brown's been our ace the last 2 years, and he hasn't thrown a pitch yet. He threw a light bullpen yesterday. He's gonna throw another bullpen this week. Maybe get a couple innings this weekend. We'll see. But I mean, we need him back, and we need Cody Beckman back yesterday. There was a time in that game yesterday, if he's not going to be a starter for us, where we said we need Cody Beckman. But Cody Beckman turned into Kit Kleiman yesterday, a freshman. Mm-hmm. And he did an okay job. He did an okay job at Hawaii, but he's not ready for this situation yet.
Sean Adler, you mentioned him. He's off to a good start, 2-0, ERA under 1, 11 strikeouts in 11 1/3 innings. Last year, of course, didn't pitch an awful lot. He was 0-1, 6.94 was the ERA, made only 1 start. He did have 26 strikeouts in 23 innings last year, which was impressive. Did you and Coach Foxhall project him as a possible weekend starter back in the fall?
We projected about 8 guys. We put a list of about 8 guys that could be weekend starters. Cody Wilder, Corey Wilder, Cody Beckman, Sean Adler, Brian Brown. There was a list. Michael Beanline, who came in yesterday as a freshman, could be a starter. He's got tremendous stuff. But these freshmen have to grow up a little bit. And you don't know at what pace they're going to grow up. Right now, Will Wilson is growing up very fast for us. But the problem is you still want to keep freshmen where they don't have to do too much too early. That's a lot of pressure on an 18-year-old. And but anyway, we had about 8 guys, and we still don't know exactly who it is. They'll figure it out. You put them out there and let them figure it out.
This is Elliot Avent Around the Bases with NC State baseball coach Elliot Avent. This is the first chapter. We've got 3 more of these coming up, March 20th, April 3rd, April 24th. We tape it to Backyard Bistro for lunch. We thank you for watching on GoPack.com. More with the coach when we return. First installment of Around the Bases with NC State baseball coach Elliot Avent. We welcome you back. I'm Tony Haynes, and when we scheduled Around the Bases this year here at Backyard Bistro, the first thing that Coach Avent thought about was the boneless teriyaki wings. They're back.
They're good, too.
As good as ever, right?
They're really good.
Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying those, and we'll continue on now with Around the Bases, talking about the NC State baseball team, which is 4-2 through a couple of series. Tommy DeJuna started yesterday, struck out 3 in 2 innings, also gave up a couple of runs on 2 hits. To be an effective starter, how important will it be for him to master his secondary pitches?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know so much about this game, Tony. You could actually just sit here and do this show, and I could ask the questions, and you could give the answer because you set me up to say exactly what some of the problems are.
It's called putting it on a tee.
Yeah, you just put it on a tee.
Yeah.
Tommy DeJunas right now he's struggling with his slider. So he tries to live with fastball, changeup. So if you're going to live with 2 pitches, you better have tremendous fastball command, and you better put it where you want to. And so right now, we're trying to figure out who our starters are. Like you said, with Brian Brown being out, we're kind of searching for that third guy, and with Adler doing as good as he's doing right now. But we didn't know it was Adler either, and still don't. I mean, he's gotten off to a terrific start, but, Adler's going to have to be more effective with a changeup to right-handed hitters when he gets in the league because they're going to load up right-handed hitters against him, and it's going to be a problem. And so we got a ways to go offensively, and we got a ways to go with our pitching. Right now, what we do very well is play tremendous defense. And I think we run the bases pretty good. But we're going to have to get better offensively, and we're going to have to get better pitching if this team's going to have a chance.
The last few years when we come here and do this first show, you were always fidgeting over the weather. The weather's been bad the last few years. In the month of February, it's cold, it's rainy. It's hard to get anything done, both in your preseason practice and some of these early season games are really affected by bad weather. So far, so good, right? I mean, how important is that for player and team development this time of year?
It's really good. I always said I'd rather practice in warm weather and play in cold if I had one or the other. And because you got to get ready. And we've had tremendous weather to get ready and be out there every day. And we just hadn't had a lot of rain or anything. And we're probably still going to get a cold snap. I'm sure it's coming. And it's way too early for it to be this nice. But the weather's been sensational. We've had some good practices. And it's allowed us to get as good as we are to this point. But we're going to have to get better. That's what I told the team yesterday. We played 3 complete games this weekend. We in the little things, all the things we need to do, all the things that it takes so long to get ready for, we played complete games. We won 2 of them, lost yesterday. But I told them we just got to get better. I said, we got to get better. We're not good enough right now.
No problem with the weather in Hawaii, though.
No, weather in Hawaii's pretty good, too.
Yeah, not bad. I'm going to ask you about that trip in a little bit. But you were talking about the freshmen before we took the break, and you were saying you don't want to give them too much too early. You want them to kind of work their way in and get comfortable with what's going on. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these guys. What's your assessment of some of the newcomers that you have?
Well, Brad Debo and Will Wilson have been tremendous. Matter of fact, everybody was worried about the catching because he lost Andrew Kisner, and Andrew Kisner plays in a big league game yesterday. Good for Andrew Kisner. I mean,
right.
He's such a crowd favorite because he's such a good person. Did everything the right way in college and worked so hard. Great family, and to see him playing a big league game yesterday was pretty cool. But when we lost Kisner, and we had Jack Conley coming back with 9 innings of catching experience, and catching's one of 2 positions other than pitching you can't live without a good catcher. You can't live without a good shortstop. So it's the one thing that'll really bother a coach if they don't have that guy returning. And we not only just had Jack Conley with 9 innings, but we had Brad Debo come in as a freshman. And those 2 guys have been tremendous. They've really done better than expected at this point. And then Will Wilson's been tremendous. And we got some other good freshmen as well. Matthew Gauthier. He's pitched twice for us, been terrific both times, and he's going to get a start actually Wednesday at home against UNC Charlotte. So if you get a chance, come out and see the Canadian. He's tremendous. Matter of fact, I was just talking to John Choboy, our terrific tennis coach, and John Choboy was telling me about his freshman from Montreal as well and how terrific he's playing for the men's tennis team. So if you get a chance Wednesday, come out and see Matthew Gauthier get his first collegiate start.
One of our fans wanted me to ask you about him and his recruitment. How did you discover him, and talk about the pipeline to NC State with him?
Well, it wasn't a pipeline. Just saw him, and he's actually the second Canadian or third Canadian we got to commit to us. But one of them, I can't even think of his name right now, the famous catcher with the Yankees. Bruce, help me out a little bit. The converted third baseman to catcher, Russell Martin. Has had a tremendous career with the Dodgers, the Yankees, several teams. But Russell Martin committed here, but the Dodgers signed him out of junior college, and we were going to convert him to a catcher from third base, but the Dodgers did the same thing. But Matthew Gauthier, we just saw him at one of the recruiting AAU events, and talked to him, brought him down, and boom, he committed to us, and he's a terrific kid, and he's going to be a terrific pitcher here.
In any sport, I see it all the time. With certain freshmen, it takes them a while in their first year before the light really comes on, and then they get comfortable. They feel like they belong. All of a sudden, they feel like, you know what, I can compete with these guys. For the basketball team right now, I see Markel Johnson. Markel Johnson now, you see the upside right in front of you. He's playing great late in the season. And of course, Coach Godfrey's giving him some playing time, and he's making the most of it. Will Wilson, he's played in all 6 games. He's been playing at second base. Did he make his mark very quickly when he got here in the fall?
He's been unbelievable. He's been so unbelievable. We had a lineup of Mendoza at third, Joe Denan at shortstop, and Steve Patera at second that did so well last year, and you got all 3 returning. We just couldn't figure out where we were going to play Wilson, but he may be our best defender, and he may be our best hitter. But for freshmen, it is difficult. It really is. I remember Dean Smith, and I know Dean Smith's not a fan favorite to mention on our show here. He wasn't I'm no big fan either. I'll go ahead and tell you.
They didn't boo down here yet.
Well,
when you mentioned that,
they probably didn't dislike him as much as Coach Sloan did. But obviously, Dean Smith won a lot of games and had a lot of things that he did the right way. And he always said we bring freshmen along too quickly. Our greatest player of all time here was David Thompson. And as a freshman, he was allowed to play on a JV team. Not that he wouldn't have done the same things on varsity, but you got to bring people along at a slow pace. Usually Joey Devine, our own Joey Devine, who's coaching with us now and doing a tremendous job coming back to school. When he left here in Miami in a super regional for us, and then that fall he's pitching for the Braves in the playoffs. And that's just tremendous pressure to be thrown into the fire sometimes too much. And for freshmen, they're 17, 18 years old. They were playing 20 games last year in high school. This is a different environment to put them in. So it's easier to bring them along slower and with more veteran players playing. But we've had Will Wilson in the 2-hole, the 4-hole. I mean, he deserves it, but I think sometimes you got to bring him along a little slower.
He's batting .304 right now through 6 games. All right, of the players you've coached here at NC State, who had the best freshman season?
Gosh, I don't even know. I mean, Jonathan Diaz, I don't know stats.
Trey Turner.
Bruce would know stats, but Jonathan Diaz as a freshman was sensational. Trey Turner was sensational. Joe Denan played third base.
Right.
Probably better than I've ever seen it played as a freshman defensively. He reminded me of Greg Nettles. But we've had some freshmen do some tremendous things here. Matt Camp, Dallas Polk, I think. There's a lot of freshmen that had some great times here. But so Bruce would be a better person to ask that question.
I'm sure during the break he's going to come up and give us a few names. Carlos Rodon wasn't bad either. I mean,
Carlos had a pretty good freshman year.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good freshman year.
Looking at the catching situation, you touched on it. Debo, I know he's a very good offensive player. You feel like he can swing the bat, right? And he threw out a couple of runners yesterday. Does that encourage you when you see him do something like that?
All 3 of our catchers can throw. We have another junior college kid named Andrew Cosgrove. All 3 of our catchers can really, really throw. But as a catcher, throwing is just one component of what you have to do. And your biggest thing is get pitchers to come along, and that's what we're working on so hard right now. But Brad Debo, let me tell you what he brings. He brings a lot of life and a lot of energy to the game. He really loves to play. He loves the fact he's at NC State. Matter of fact, Bruce, you mentioned Bruce is good friends with his dad. Tony Debo, everybody remembers Tony Debo being here in the media. But Brad Debo brings such an energy to the game, and he's going to be a terrific player here. and he's probably got a chance to be a pretty high draft pick when he leaves here.
You mentioned Jack Conley. Although didn't catch a lot last year, he was around the team. He pitch hit some. You brought him in certain situations. His familiarity with the pitchers, does that count for something?
Helps a lot because he caught a lot of bullpens last year. So, and he's a tough kid. He reminds me of Caleb Mangum a little bit, the great catcher we had here from Fuquay. He and Caleb have a lot of the same similarities. And as nervous as I should have been with all new catchers coming in except for Jack's 9 innings, I was never nervous because, like you said, Jack was here last year. I knew his toughness. I knew his competitiveness, and I thought we'd be okay.
You as a coach, and you're not the only one, a lot of them, early in the season, the lineup you have right now may not look at all like the lineup that you use later in the season. And you've always tinkered with lineups. Last year you kind of solidified it late in the season when your team got going. Brock Detheridge has been at the top of the lineup in 5 of the 6 games. Batted .317 last season. Pretty good on-base percentage. Stole 14 bases. So based on what you saw last year, does he seem like the logical choice to be at the top of your lineup?
Well, we have tinkered with it, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. Right now we're not getting production. And sometimes you just move things around even if it doesn't make sense. Matter of fact, I remember Billy Martin, he picked his starting lineup one time out of a hat, just threw all the names there and just picked out the lineup right out of a hat and the batting order. And we may do that because right now we're not getting production, but we like Brock at the top of the lineup and Josh McClain beside him at the back of the lineup, because you put those two guys back to back, they're two of the fastest runners in college baseball, and that helps, and they find ways to get on. And whether it's beating out an infield hit or they just put a lot of pressure on the defense, bunting, whatever. Plus, they're both pretty good hitters. But right now, Brock is really struggling against left-handed pitching, and we've seen a lot of it, and we're going to see more. We have a lot of lefties. If we have any flaw in this lineup, it's probably a lot of lefties, and we're going to see a lot of left-handed pitchers.
He was good against lefties last year.
Well, his stats were good against lefties. I look at it every day to make sure it was there.
Right.
But stats can be deceiving. we can let. I mean, they're facts after a while. They are facts. But you have to have a lot of data for stats to prove out for me. And right now, he's got to get better against left-handed pitching for us to keep him up there at the top as much as we're going to see. And plus, they're going to bring in lefties not only to face him, but if Kinneberg bats that close, Kinnaman bats that close. I always call him Kinneberg because of the former player Brian Kinneberg we had here. But Kinnaman bats so close to Brock, they're just going to bring a lefty every time they see Brock late in the game, and then he'll roll through him, roll through Kinnaman, and maybe Shane Shepard as well. So we got some things to figure out, but that's the fun part of it. That's what you do, and but we got to get better.
Evan Mendoza batted .362 last season. He led your club. Steven Patera had some great stretches. He hit .291. Those two guys have really scuffled out of the gate. Is it way too early to be concerned about that?
It's too early to be panicked about it, but it's not too early to be concerned about it. I mean, these guys should be hitting better than they're hitting. And sometimes you change their juniors. We got a lot of we had at least 12 or 13 juniors that met with 30 scouts this fall. And they make them think they're going to get drafted in the top 10 rounds. And you know what? Evan, if you could hit with a little more power, boy, you might really be a top 3 round draft pick. You know what I'm saying? Just need a little more power. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, he changes the swing to get a little lift in it. And so every time when you go through the junior draft, there's going to be some issues. We went through with Brett Austin and Logan Ratledge and Logan Jernigan and Jake Fincher and Trey Turner and Carlos Rodon. There are things that these players are going to – but it's real. It's real things that you and I would have to go through as well. They don't make it up and they don't try to, but it's in their head. So, but we got to get those guys turned around because they were a big part of our offense last year, and we're missing that right now.
Around the Bases with Elliott Avent. One more segment coming up, so stay with us. Final segment here on Around the Bases, along with Wolfpack baseball coach Elliott Avent. I'm Tony Haynes. We're taping at Backyard Bistro, and once again, a reminder, our next chapter for this show will be written on March 20th. We'll be here at Backyard Bistro for lunch that day. Then we return again on April 3rd, and the final show on April 24th. Mark it down on your calendar. Make plans to join us for lunch here at Backyard Bistro. We're talking about the NC State baseball team, which has won back-to-back series early in the season. The Pack is 4-2, getting ready for a road trip up to UNC Greensboro on Tuesday. And, Coach, before we get back into baseball, I think there's a young man that you would like to recognize to the fans.
Yeah, Kathy Crossland, who's a good friend of mine. She's been a professor at NC State since I've been here. She's a wonderful lady who does a wonderful job for a lot of people. I mean, she's just been tremendous through the years with myself, Coach Esposito, Ray Tanner, Coach Tarantini. She's done so many things for so many people. She texted me last night. There's a kid named Landon Bass, if you'll keep him in your prayers. He's a 5th grade kid from Wilson County and just loves NC State baseball. She says he knows more about NC State baseball than anybody, and couldn't believe that she actually knew me. I mean, he was so excited. She was going to bring him to a game, and he was out fishing over the weekend with a couple of his buddies, and they got in an ATV, and it turned over and landed on him. He's in ICU right now in Greenville Hospital in Greenville, North Carolina. So if you'll just keep him in your prayers, I'm going to go visit Kathy in a little bit and get him a team jersey and a helmet and stuff she's going to take to him. But just keep Landon in your prayers.
Thank you, Coach, for that. Preston Palmero, a really tough guy to replace. He could swing the bat. He was steady at first base. He had the tremendous baseball pedigree that we know about. But now this is Shane Shepard's big chance. 3 for 16 so far with a homer. Do you feel like, though, you're going to have to be patient with him?
Well, you got to. I mean, Shane's been around this program for 3 years. My gosh, his brother, Chance, had a big year for us last year. His dad, always tell him, the boys think they're pretty good. His dad was the best player of all 3 of them. And but Steve played here for Ray Tanner and for me as well at Lewisburg Junior College. But we got to be patient for Shane. He's playing great defense. He's worked his tail off, playing great defense. Plays with a lot of good energy, has a good eye at the plate, has a great on-base percentage. But right now we probably need a little more production from him offensively. But you can say that about 4 or 5 guys right now.
Patience is good at the plate, but you can cross the line and be too patient too, right? He's a power hitter. Do you need him to be a little more aggressive?
Yeah, we need to hit some doubles. I mean, we doubles. Everybody thinks home runs win games, and I've never turned one down. But doubles are very, very important. I always said if you can average 2.5 or more doubles a game, then you can be very, very successful. And Shane's a big guy and capable of putting driving some runs in. That's what we need from him.
We talked about Tommy DeJunis earlier in the show as a pitcher, but he's also a right-handed hitter. He's seen spot duty in his career as a position player, as a DH. How do you see his role developing when he's not pitching?
Tommy wants to focus so much on pitching this year, but he had a great fall offensively, and he's a good defender as well. But I thought he had the big hit on Saturday. He had the 2-out ball that kind of, I told Tommy it took off like that plane to Hawaii. It just kept going up. He had a line drive to left field. Their left fielder came in to make the final out of the inning and just went right over his head because it was hit so hard. And then we got a couple more doubles, I think one from Shane and one from Jack Conley. That was a big inning for us, and Tommy got that big hit.
Joe Denan has been a productive hitter, an RBI guy throughout his career. When he came in, you knew he had tremendous amount of power. That's been somewhat spotty in his career. But when you see him hit home runs in back-to-back games like he did this weekend, do you get pretty excited about the potential for him being maybe a guy in this his junior year where he can carry a team for stretches?
Well, he's got power, like you said. It's when you hit those home runs. Like Chance Shepard, we're going to miss his home runs last year because he always hit big home runs, like that one he hit at TCU, and he hit several of them. He hit one at East Carolina one time. But we need that from Joe. Not only to hit home runs, big home runs. It's when you hit them, and he hit a big one yesterday to tie the game up in the 7th. And but anyway, he's a good player for us. But we're going to need more RBIs out of Joe. We're going to need a higher batting average as well.
Johnny Piedmont late last year, he came in the back end of the bullpen, and I mean he was throwing gas. It was really exciting to watch him in that role. You put him out there yesterday. It was a struggle for him in the 8th inning. But as I watched that some yesterday, I was thinking, here's a guy who's like 6'8". It's a little tougher for a guy that's that tall to master his mechanics early in the season.
Without question. And the other thing is Johnny's battled so many injuries throughout his career. He had the arm injury out of high school. Then he comes here and he was in the car wreck, so he's had the back injuries that he's always dealt with. One of the great memories of my career here at NC State is him pitching that Navy game and saying, Coach, don't put anybody else in. I need to finish this for us. I said, Johnny, how about your back? He said, I'll be okay. But he stood up the entire game. He couldn't sit because his back would stiffen up. And Johnny's done so many things for us. He's such a competitor. He's a guy we may give some leeway to. You talk about giving leeway because he's so big for us. But he's had 2 outings right now, and neither time is pitched like Johnny Piedmont is capable of. So you wonder about, he's not a complainer. So we talked about it last night after the game. Is his back bothering him more than he's telling us?
Finally, Coach, you're in the ACC again, and what a tough baseball conference it is. And then your division, Florida State, Clemson, and Louisville. You could certainly empathize with Dave Dorn, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost kind of the same thing, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. This league is so tough top to bottom. That's what makes it probably the number 1 league in the country right now. We've always had the teams at the top, but sometimes the teams at the bottom, well, the teams at the bottom got a lot better. And right now it's probably the toughest league in the country. And but it's going to be a battle this year. That's why we have to get better soon. You know, league play is right around the corner, and if you dig yourself a hole, you're not going to get out. And as good as we are, it's still about going to postseason. It's still about trying to compete for a national championship, and you can't do that unless you get there. So we got some improvement to make, and we better make it quick.
And a chance to get better this week. It's a busy schedule for the Pack at UNC Greensboro, 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Then Charlotte comes in for 1 on Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Pack will host Rhode Island on Friday at 3 p.m. Then Maryland, a game with Maryland at the USA Baseball Complex, starts at 4:30 on Saturday. And then on Sunday, UMass Lowell will visit Doak Field at Dale Park, and that will be a 1 o'clock start. All right, finish up those wings now. There's plenty left.
Okay, Tony.
Let's get to it. Elliot Avent, Tony Hayes, thank you for watching Around the Bases.